So, in my Ireland update for this week, I have a travel special for you. We're talking EES, we're talking ETIAS visa waiver, and I'm going to make this a really simple video actually, because I've seen lots of confusing information in the mainstream media. Plus, I have a little bit of Ryanair news for you too, as well as the cruise news and the all-important weather forecast for the week ahead. But you can see I'm starting this video over here on Magaluf Beach. Got myself a cafe con leche. I'm also filming this on the Sunday rather than the Monday, just because I have a friend coming in on the cruise. So while I'm down here, I'm also going to film my walk back to the car. If you want to see what Magaluf Beach looks like on a Sunday in peak season, hit the subscribe button, click the notifications bell, and you'll see that video coming out soon on the channel. So first of all, the EES. What is the EES? It is the entry and exit system, which is going to be in place from the 12th of October from this year in 2025 in all airports in Europe, and it's going to affect those only travelling in from third countries, so those coming in from, say, the United Kingdom, United States or Canada to any airport in Europe. Now, we've seen the machines for the EES being slowly rolled out throughout European airports, and we saw them over in Palma Airport in Terminal A, kind of clustered together within Terminal A. They look like small ATMs. They're not ATMs, but they are the new entry and exit system machines. So the good news is, using these machines is going to speed up border control. And well, if you've been following the Mallorca Under the Sun Facebook group this year, you're going to know that we have experienced queues over at border control. I've been lucky enough not to be caught up in those on my travels, but pretty much every week there's a day of the week, never sure which day it is, where we are seeing big queues at border control. And hopefully these entry and exit machines may well speed up the process, because the whole idea of them is to remove passport stamping. So what do these machines actually do? Well, they're going to register a fingerprint, and also they're going to take a photo. They're going to take biometric data of your face and also your fingerprint too, and that's going to be kept on their database for 3 years. And the good news is that you're only going to have to do this once, and then after 3 years have passed, you're then going to need to use those machines once again. Now, from what I understand, this will not remove the need to use the passport e-gates. You are still going to have to go through the e-gates when you arrive into any European airport or when you depart from any European airports, but it will remove that passport stamping element. Also, what's not clear as well, and I suspect there's still going to be a manual control as well for children. For families with kids, you're probably still going to have to use that manual border point as well to get your passports checked when you're going through, regardless or not whether you've used the EES machines. However, I will get onto this because at present and at the time of filming, we do not have all the information about it. However, your biggest question probably is going to be, will the EES cause huge amounts of travel chaos from October the 12th onwards? And I appreciate that many of you are probably going to be coming on holiday. You're going to be getting your last minute break for the summer season. Are you going to be held up at airports as literally thousands of people are going to be pouring through and using these EES machines? But the good news is that no, you won't be, or at least you shouldn't be. And that is because the entry and exit system for anyone coming in from the UK or those other countries is going to be phased in across airports. And I do believe that they have been doing some tests in airports, and I think it's been in the Canary Islands actually. So they have tested phasing this in, and they're going to do so at every other airport as well in Europe. It's not going to all come in at once, and you're all not going to be queuing up behind the same set of machines to register your fingerprints or to get your photo taken either. So we're going to see a mix of manual passport stamping at first, and then we're going to also see travellers being asked to use these new machines. Fingers crossed they work. But what does this slow rollout? They're calling it a progressive start. Well, I've had a look at the official website for the EES. So what does this actually mean? And according to the official website, it says the entry and exit system, or EES, will be deployed gradually across external borders of the 29 European countries over a period of 6 months. These European countries will introduce different elements of the EES in phases, including the collection of biometric data such as facial image and fingerprints. This means that travellers' biometric data, facial image and fingerprints will not be collected at every border crossing right away, and this is really important, and their personal information may not be registered in the system, and passports will continue to be stamped as normal. So this progressive implementation is going to last until the 9th of April 2026. They're obviously going to test it, they're going to get it up and running, and hopefully by the 9th of April, it's going to be used properly. So from the 10th of April 2026, the EES will be fully operational, and all external border crossing points from European countries will be using the system. So fingers crossed it's all going to be up and running for next season, for the 2026 holiday season. If not, they're going to have to refer back to the old manual way of doing things, which I suspect may happen in some occasions. In the meantime though, if you are travelling from October the 12th, if you are not getting use of these EES machines, make sure you just keep a record of when you're travelling into and out of Europe, in case this is not being recorded, or in case your passport is not being stamped either. Always keep a check that you're not overstaying your 90 days in the rolling 180-day limit, because you could find yourself being banned from Europe if you are not a European passport holder. So this is super important, and I hope no one's going to get caught out by this. So what else can you expect? Well, this is going to be a bigger story, I do suspect, because there has been an article in the Times newspaper, and I have to thank the very lovely Nick Brown, who runs the Mallorca Public Transport Questions Facebook group, and I shall drop a link to it in the description text below. If you've got any public transport questions, go and ask Nick, he's your man. He did send me this article from the Times newspaper, and also because it's been written about, it's probably going to be replicated and talked about as well. So I'm going to try and sum up what the Times newspaper has been saying. Now, the article claims that the EES machines will ask questions when you enter, such as, do you have a return ticket? Do you have adequate funds? And also, do you have adequate travel insurance? Now, you may remember a couple of weeks ago I made a video coming through Bristol Airport talking about the importance of having travel insurance with you. But are we going to get these kinds of questions on the EES machines? Are they also going to have an app as well, which you can well download to upload some information prior to actually using these machines? We don't know, because, well, the European Union website isn't 100% clear, and we don't know what these screens are going to show. And, well, it has been written about, and it is in the Times newspaper, and it's got everybody thinking about this too. Now, I have to say, I've talked about it in the past, and the press have reported on this widely to worry all you guys coming over here on holiday, that at border control you could be asked for proof of funds if you're coming over. But I've heard that precisely nobody that watches the channel, and nobody I've heard of either, has been stopped by border control to check proof of funds or bank statements or anything like that. And at this point, I'm going to say consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already, because we're obviously going to get more information about this as we edge on nearer towards the October the 12th implementation date, and I will pass on any information that I get through about this too. So what about the ETIAS? Now, the ETIAS is something completely different from the EES. It actually stands for the European Travel Information and Authorisation System, and it means that anyone coming from a third country, so once again, the United Kingdom, the USA, Canada, Australia, wherever, from outside of the European Union, will have to apply for this travel authorisation to be able to come on holiday to Europe. And once again, this is something actually that most of the places have already implemented, but the EU have been a little bit slow implementing this. The UK already has a travel authorisation. This was implemented last April. The USA already has a travel authorisation. I think it's called the ETSA. So it's all technically the same thing. So some people could call it a travel tax. It's almost like a tax grab. Call it what you like, but it's something that you're going to need to apply for in the future. However, the good news is that this will not be implemented until the final quarter of 2026. So they're going to get the 2026 travel season out of the way first, and the cost of this is going to be around €20 or 17 of your greatest British pounds. You know, I don't want comments about this saying this is the EU punishing Britain for Brexit. It's nothing about that. Most places in the world now have some kind of like ETIAS or ETA or ETSA visa travel waiver system, and Europe is just getting on board with this. But of course, it's going to be massively complicated because of the huge amount of travellers coming over from these third countries, and this is why this has been delayed once again now to the back end of 2026. So it's not going to be anything that you need to worry about for pretty much most of the 2026 travel season. So just to give you the official information about the ETIAS visa waiver, the EU website says it is linked to a traveller's passport. It is valid for up to 3 years or until the passport expires, whichever comes first. If you get a new passport, you'll need to get a new ETIAS travel authorisation. And with a valid ETIAS travel authorisation, you can enter the territory of these European countries as often as you want for short-term stays, normally for up to 90 days in any 180-day period. And I'm pretty sure as well the holiday companies are going to get on board with all of this and help you sort this out at time of booking your holiday as well, so you can then forget about it and then just look forward to your summer holiday in 2027. That's even if it goes ahead, because I have to say this has been delayed now so many times that I'm not even convinced it's definitely going to go ahead at the back end of 2026, but let's see. Okay, so more flight news for you. Well, we have heard news, and this is quite important actually, about ground crew for Ryanair striking, and we've seen news reports about this. Now, Ryanair have tried to reassure travellers to Spain that it's not going to affect flights. Oh, we've just got a speaker going by us. Got a bit of music as we go down Magaluf. It's actually quite nice to see. We missed all the music actually down here. Magaluf is so quiet. It's nice to hear a bit of music going past and a little bit of life. Anyway, as I said, Ryanair has tried to reassure passengers that these strikes taking place with Spanish ground crew over here in Spain will not affect flights coming into and out of Spain. But I'm not convinced, and for that reason I've actually booked my flights back to the UK with EasyJet for this summer. I am going to be flying soon. Like I said, subscribe to the channel because I will be filming my flight to and from the UK, and we're going to see what that's like in peak season. But also, another piece of news as well is that the baggage sizing, the free cabin baggage that Ryanair allow on board, the new cabin bag sizes are up and running now in airports. And you're going to see actually they've kept the same baggage sizes as before. They've just moved the line a little bit further up, and it means as well that you're going to be able to take an extra 5 centimetres of space with you too. I would say don't go out and buy another bag. Keep the bag you've got, because don't forget the huge problems that we had last year with so many people having to pay extra to take cabin baggage onto the flight just because their bag was a little tiny bit bigger. If you were one of those people, the chances are that your bags that you may have had problems with last year are now going to fit that cabin sizes. So keep the ones you've got and don't go spending any more money on baggage. But when I'm over at the airport, I will try and see if we can find that cabin bag size, and I'm going to see actually if I can fit a slightly bigger bag into that, because with EasyJet you do get a larger cabin baggage allowance, and I'm going to go and see if I can try out those new cabin bag sizes with Ryanair. Okay, so moving on to the cruise news for the week ahead, and this week Palma Port is going to be welcoming in 42,297 passengers. Now I have seen a report in the local paper that's saying that that Palma just isn't being overrun by these holiday makers at all, which makes me think that many people aren't actually getting off these boats. And well, it's hardly going to be surprising this week because we do have very high temperatures as the week goes along, but also as well I've noticed that that a lot of passengers are being picked up by buses and they're being taken around the island on tours to key locations. And also in the centre of Palma this week we're going to be having some very high temperatures, so we're not going to see as many people out and about walking down the waterfront from the cruise ships because it is going to be very, very hot. However, if you are planning a day trip into Palma, Monday the 11th of August is going to be the busiest day. They've got 11,500 passengers arriving. On the Allure of the Seas, I think it's going to be the biggest cruise ship in, and I think that's the one my friend is coming in on as well. So it's going to be interesting talking to her about her experience on that. The quietest day is going to be next Sunday. We've got no cruise passengers in, but it is going to be busy on the other days of the week as well. Friday and Saturday is going to see see the arrival of 10,000 passengers on these days. So I'll say Saturday in Palma is going to be pretty much a busy one. Okay, finally, on the subject of the weather, for the week ahead, I have seen an alert which has been issued by AMET. They are the meteorological society here in Spain, and we do have warnings of very high temperatures, and I'm absolutely melting here. My ice has pretty much gone now in my iced coffee, but we do have a very hot week ahead. We have highs of 35 degrees Celsius, and it may even feel hotter than that. We've got lows of 22. Along with that, I'm going to once again issue a warning. If you are elderly, if you're travelling over here with kids, try and stay out of the midday sun. Try and take a siesta in the afternoon, go back to your hotel, get out of the heat of the day, and just kind of break your day up a little bit, particularly if you've got kids as well. Make sure they're covered up on the beach, and bring that really high sun protection cream over with you. Nothing less than a factor 50 is my recommendation, as well as a hat and a t-shirt and all that kind of protection stuff as well, because I always say it, but I always see really burnt bodies around the island. So look after yourselves if you're coming over this week. Also, as well, I've heard of some water shortages up in the mountain villages, and we do get this pretty much every summer. So up in Daya, just use water responsibly if you're coming over here. Don't leave the taps running in your hotel. And we haven't had a decent amount of rain for quite a while now, and it's quite worrying. So please, if you're coming over here on holiday, please use water responsibly, but drink lots of it too at the same time. Okay everyone, I am going to be out and about around the island this week. I don't know if I'm going to be able to film very much daytime with the really high temperatures. It's going to be super hard, not just for me, but also for my camera doesn't like it either, and tends to pack in when the temperature does get too hot. So I'll do my best, but I do have plenty of content coming out on the channel as well. Watch out for those videos. In the meantime, I'm going to go drop a couple of videos appearing both here and here on YouTube, maybe here and here too. I'll be back next week for another island update. And also, if you have any questions, join us over in the Mallorca Under the Sun Facebook group, and follow me on Instagram, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Goodbye for now.